Welcome to the Two Fat Guys and Album Podcast, your weekly dive into iconic albums and our search for the modern classics. In this episode, we explored a 1983 self-titled Violent Femmes album, ranked one of the best albums of the 80s. So, what do I have to do? Tell me now. What do I got to do to get you to listen to a podcast? Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like it, do all that kind of technical stuff. For more in-depth reviews, music analysis from two fat guys who love talking about music no matter the genre. I am Mike Blackburn. I'll be your host and narrator, and with me, as always, is my good friend, the maestro of music, the siren of sound, the doctor of the diminished chord, Brek Hufnus. Welcome, maestro.
Hello.
So we generally start... Sadly, we start this podcast by cleaning up our messes from previous shows.
Yes.
Do we have anything to
just a minor spill, and then yeah. Well, you
aisle 5.
Yeah, you had asked me about on Key Lime Pie, the album by Camper Van Beethoven that we talked about.
Yes.
Previous episode, you had asked me about the instrument being played during the interlude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. By the band member. By the
organist.
Yes.
Right. Garth Hudson.
There you go. So one of us would come up with it.
Garth
From
Hudson.
the band, capital T, capital B, the band.
Yes.
Yes.
And so and you had asked me about a Lowery pump organ, I believe is what you had come up with somehow.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if there's such an instrument. So I'm curious where you actually pulled it from. But there is an instrument. Lowery is a brand of organs.
Okay.
Okay, Lowery is a brand. Actually made previously in LaGrange, Illinois, when organs were still something that people made.
Beautiful and scenic.
Yeah. And
LaGrange.
Interesting. And Garth Hudson, you've heard us talk about the Hammond organ, also a Chicago area product, by the way.
Hammond also being a brand?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. And Hammond is really the more popular common organ throughout music, rock and roll history type, I would just say. Lowery was more of a kind of a consumer level organ. Not that they didn't make quality stuff, but you wouldn't commonly see a Lowery organ. And Garth Hudson was one of the few people who actually preferred the sound of the Lowery over the Hammond organ. And they were the largest organ manufacturer of the 60s and 70s. But a Lowery pump organ is something very specific.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So all organs create sound by blowing air through pipes.
Oh, like in church.
That is also an organ. You have the great big pipe organ.
Yeah.
Right. So all organs work that way, and maybe they could be metal pipes, they could be reeds or wooden.
Gotcha.
But the organ is kind of, even though it's played with a keyboard.
That's the organ. The organ means pipes.
Who?
Organ means pipes.
Yeah, organ
is that what
means
you're saying?
Wind, I would say.
All right.
And pipes. You have to blow the wind through something. So the combination, whereas like say a piano. A hammer strikes a string.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So the organ is, of course, a keyboard instrument, but when you press a certain note down, air goes through that note's pipes, essentially.
Gotcha.
So how does the air get propelled? In the olden times, you would have, like really old, like church organs, like in the whatever. I don't know, 1600s, say.
Mm-hmm.
You would have people whose job it was to have a giant bellows and pump air through the organ. But then a pump organ, by the way, a little bit smaller, something that could be more portable and fit into a music studio and all that kind of thing. You would pump the air with your feet.
Okay.
So you'd pump these two pedals, and that would sort of store up the air, and then when you pressed key down, the air would then proceed through the pipe or the reed or whatever, the wooden fluty type thing, and create the particular sound.
So, like a floor-mounted version of a bagpipe?
Sure, without the keys.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Well,
bagpipe is air.
Yes, the bagpipe has air in a bag,
and you're blowing it through a tube.
Pipes.
Pipe, yeah.
So, yes, not except the notes on the pipes are changed with your fingers, like a clarinet or say a flute or something like that. Right. So this is a keyboard instrument.
Correct. Yeah.
But yes,
trying to wrap my head around the
point
concept
about the air. Yes, I would say that's reasonable to compare it to.
Okay.
So that is I could not verify Lowery making a pump organ. Pump organs sort of went out of style in the 1930s or so. And of course, a more modern organ would be powered by electricity.
Yeah, sure.
So then you wouldn't really have the need for a pump organ. So anyways, that's what I came up with. That's what I found. So the instrument on keyline pi, a pump organ could maybe not made by Lowery.
But that's pretty cool that you have this album recorded in the 90s somewhere that's using like 1940s or 50s technology.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why they brought him in. And the story is it took him a long time to set it up and get it calibrated or whatever, get it functioning. And so he was testing it by playing this tune that
ended up on the album.
They recorded as he was kind of testing out the instrument.
It's a cool little tune.
Yeah.
I actually quite like it. And it's clever to have an interlude in the middle of the album.
I think it's called Interlude.
It is. That's the name of the song.
So Interlude on Keyline Pie by Camper Van Beethoven is the song we're talking about. Garth Hudson is a member of the band, capital T, capital B, the band. The band.
Not a band.
Right, of like
the
Robbie
band.
Robinson.
Yes.
Yeah. And he sat in on a couple songs on this Camper Van Beethoven album and played this remarkable instrument that we just learned about.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. What else you got?
Well, I have one more, because we also talked about Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd.
Yep.
And so I have a nugget, not really about Wish You Were Here. It's more about Pink Floyd in general.
Okay.
So Richard Wright, speaking of keyboardists.
Yep.
Keyboardist for Pink Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
He was the only band member to make money on the Wall tour.
What?
Yeah. So I know you like the...
So they did like 4 shows or something on the Wall.
Okay.
I mean, it was...
Like the original one. They did like Berlin and London.
London, New York, and L.A., I believe.
Probably.
Yeah.
That sounds about right. And...
he wasn't he was fired.
He was fired.
That's right.
Yes. He was... And I know sometimes we get into the discussion about being a member of a band, and we've talked about hired guns and the hired gun thing where you hire people. So Richard Wright was fired from the band because, and I believe he agreed that he really wasn't a full participant in the making of the album. Like, he was there, he played, but he didn't
contribute. He
didn't deserve like the full band member credit. He was kind of absent. So they fired him.
That's. I mean, you think as like a bass player, you would be offended by that. I mean, you think you could fire like every bass player in every band.
So, if there's
contributing.
probably bass players listening to, or at least there used to be bass players listening to this podcast, you might want to be nicer to them.
Well, we're actually going to talk about an album with a remarkable bass player.
Okay. We are. Yeah. So just to wrap up the story, they did hire him to play because he was still Richard freaking Wright, and he played really well, and they needed him for the album. But as a band member, or as a hired gun, he was paid a salary or a stipend or whatever.
Yep.
And everybody else as a band member had ownership in the performance, in the tour.
Sure.
And the tour lost £400,000, which I don't know.
Seems like a lot of money.
Seems like a lot of money. And so they had to pay him, and everybody lost money. And
yeah.
Depending on how you look at it, I guess it worked out in the end.
That's pretty cool. All right, I heard the story of him getting fired and then like, being brought back or whatever. Yeah.
So that's kind of what happened.
Pretty cool.
That's it. That's all I got.
All right, very cool. So I've one kind of discussion point. I don't know if you saw kind of circling on the internet the last few weeks was an interesting article, and I have this special place in my heart for MTV.
You do.
Not the MTV that the abomination that you can find on the networks now or on your cable channel, but MTV in the when they emerged in the 80s and the 90s were a significant cultural influence.
Definitely, no question.
And
they were star makers.
I mean, there's lots of topics I would like to talk to about that. I mean, I think, yes, they were star makers, but I also think they influenced the young people. I mean, I think they influenced elections. They did to get the vote out in the 90s. They did all kinds of things. I think they taught.
Yeah, there was a news element of it.
And there was the MTV News, which I think brought,
There was a legitimate journalistic aspect to that.
Yeah, but it brought it down to the level of teenagers. It brought information to teenagers that they wouldn't necessarily go out and find themselves.
Right.
They kept you informed.
Like if you weren't watching the 10 o'clock news, say,
right.
you would get...
Right.
You would be informed on MTV.
And it was fun, interesting. They did, stories and... anyways, I think they were a major powerhouse.
Okay.
Well, an interview, and I'm not sure when this interview was done, but I saw Pitchfork had kind of reran it or ran it, and it was Ronnie James Dio, the Rainbow singer.
Yes.
Talking about MTV and the influence MTV had. And he made the statement that MTV killed heavy metal.
Okay.
And so it changed it into something else.
Like into hair metal, say?
Right. It brought the hair metal bands to prominence.
Okay.
His exact quote was that the music was rubbish. It only was about how they looked, how many parties they got to have, and how many 14-year-old girls they could pull after the show. The music was rubbish. Poison killed everything. So
yeah, the band Poison.
Poison, right? So there wasn't, and so I found that interesting because I had kind of I brushed up against this topic in one of our very early episodes.
Yes,
and you kind of
no, I go on. I'm not going to...
I mean, you sort of poo-pooed the concept.
No, I didn't. No, well, go ahead. You have to state a concept before you poo-poo it.
So I think that, MTV and the use of videos brought in a different cast of characters into the music industry where, to Ronnie's point here, it was the look.
Yes.
And so...
I don't think I disagreed with
metal
that
turned
statement.
into hair metal.
Yes.
And hair metal was not interested in the same kind of themes and
yeah, I think
artistry.
Right. I don't think I disagree. I don't remember what exactly you said. But I
probably
do...
something very smart.
Yeah, but I do agree that MTV, first of all, made bands popular, and certain bands were really good at playing that game. So they understood the value of looking good. They understood the value of making a really interesting video. And again, maybe the music was intended for a larger audience. I mean, metal, like Ronnie James Dio, I think metal. I don't know if it's
he was
fair
a face for radio.
I don't think exactly. Well,
is that where you were going?
No, I think metal is a bit more of a niche genre compared to hair metal, which probably had a broader appeal. So I think anybody could make that argument about just about any genre of music that, yeah, there's some form of this music that has broader appeal and is usually most often of lower quality because it's perhaps dumbed down or has other elements attached to it that aren't related specifically to the quality of the music being played.
So I was calling that corporate. You know, that
Well,
you have something that comes out and it becomes formulaic. You know, and in this case, it's how big your hair is, how much makeup you have on,
Right.
and
You
that's
have one
what
band
Ronnie's
that's-
kind of saying. You know, so it became MTV created a world where it was more about Bon Jovi than it was Led Zeppelin.
Sure, but Led Zeppelin had their day also.
Sure.
I don't think.
So
I
they
think,
killed
to
heavy
me,
metal.
I think that's a really broad statement. I think Ronnie James Dio has a little bitterness to him. I think heavy metal was probably on its way out anyways. I think it had its run. I feel like, you know, the worm was going to turn at some point, and it became Poison and hair metal. And I mean, it's forever this argument, this happening in music of popularity and top 40 and what makes a top 40 song and what makes a song, you know, and we rail against, oh, this isn't a real artist, this person's just out for the money, or this is a sellout again, or it's all about image. I mean, you can make these arguments go back forever. So I don't think Ronnie James Dio was personally killed by MTV. What stopped? He could have put a little lipstick and eyeliner on. I mean, nobody was stopping him. And I think it's just a lack of keeping up, in some regard, with changing times. I think part of it's changing times. And to just point at MTV and said they killed a certain genre of music is a little ridiculous. Did they enhance hair metal? For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, but I don't think, and was Ronnie James Dio making music that would appeal to large quantities of people?
Yeah. Well, I think the hair metal brought in not only like the metal fans, and maybe even younger people into that, but I think it also brought a lot of female into that.
Yeah, I think so too.
That, you know, into the look and
I
the
agree
image.
with that.
Yeah. So it was interesting. And I'm always curious about, you know, how some music rises up in response to other music, and you know, heavy metal kind of came along. You know, Zeppelin and whatever was pushing back against the other types of music that was big at the time, which was more like art rock and prog.
Wait, what?
So the other
Are you
music
saying Led Zeppelin was not a prog band, or is a prog band?
is not a prog band. I don't think they're proggy.
I mean, they certainly advanced the blues to like an art rock level. Was it progressive rock in the sense of Genesis? Maybe, but I don't think Led Zeppelin was pushing back against anything. They were on the prog train as well. I mean, I don't know if you've heard "Stairway to Heaven." It's a fairly elaborate song.
Yeah.
But they also had, I mean, I think they were looking to push the boundaries of music and create a higher level of music. So whether you call it prog or art rock, whatever box you want to put it in, I wouldn't say they were pushing against anything. They were just doing their own thing.
All right, fair enough. Well, do you want to leave it there and
Sure.
move on to drop the needle here on side one?
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rock. In the red corner, an album that needs no introduction. An unranked contender, this folk punk masterpiece was released in 1983, featuring the manic vocals of Gordon Gano, the intricate acoustic bass of Brian Ritchie, and the skiffle-influenced Trancephone of Victor DiLorenzo. This platinum album spoke to a generation and influenced countless others. This is the self-titled album, Violent Femmes. And in the blue corner, two fat guys. This is two fat guys and an album.
Side one. This is exciting for me. I love this. I love this album. So we get to talk about the Violent Femmes.
Mm-hmm.
I guess before we do our normal diving into the band and the instruments and the album itself, we got to see them.
Yes.
We got to see them with the Chicago somebody.
I don't know what it's.
I'm going to say
It's
Philharmonic.
like the Chicago pop. Chicago Philharmonic sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really fine orchestra. It's not the like the Chicago Symphony Orchestra would be sort of the premier orchestra, and the Chicago Philharmonic, more of a pops orchestra. Yeah. But they're filled of tremendous players. A lot of musicians from Lyric and Ravinia and all that kind of stuff.
So give me, it's there 50 people? 50 people?
It's a full-size symphony.
Yeah.
50's fair.
Yeah. It was very cool at Ravinia, which is an outdoor music venue in the Chicagoland area. Very scenic, very, very beautiful, and it's a beautiful kind of open air facility.
And I love this album too. We both do, and it was really interesting. Like going to the show, we were like, I wonder how this is going to work with a symphony.
Yeah.
And as it turned out, it worked out fabulously.
Right.
It's just one of the best concerts I've seen.
Well, it was also kind of obvious how much fun the Philharmonic was having playing with them.
Everybody is, yeah.
And then how much the band got a kick out of everybody. And we talked about it, I think, after we saw them or whatever, because they had like a gigantic saxophone.
They did. They have a
contra
saxophone, bass saxophone.
Yeah,
which is big. You need to sit in a chair to play it, and it makes
6 feet, 7 feet.
Maybe it could be. I mean, I haven't.
They're huge.
It's taller than if you were standing up.
Right. So it's just an amazing. So the whole thing was pretty amazing to kind of watch and see, and
there's a really great performance out there with the Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra.
Yeah.
Actually, that's the one that they've recorded and put out, and you can find that I think on YouTube or TV or Netflix or somewhere. If you look, you can find it. It's the same concert we watched, except they were saying, "Hey, Milwaukee, you're the best crowd we've ever had," and things like that. So,
So I saw that, and I watched it, and it was cool because it was kind of revisiting what we saw.
Right.
But it still didn't kind of get you into the seats.
Well, seeing it live was fantastic.
It's amazing.
If you have anybody out there has the opportunity to see them, and you're wondering if you should see them with a symphony orchestra, the answer is yes.
Which is weird because there's such, and I don't mean this is not a put down, but there's such a simple band.
Right.
It's a guitar, a bass, and not even a drum set usually.
Right.
And I think it has a lot to do with how they kind of developed.
Right. Well, they developed a street performance.
Street performance.
Right.
Yeah,
so you had to have a setup that allowed you to perform on a street corner.
Yeah.
They were sort of not. I don't know if they weren't liked in their area where they were performing. I think they weren't really.
Well, they couldn't get a gig.
They couldn't get a gig.
Yeah. So
the venues kind of didn't want to have them.
Yeah.
I think they were sort of outcasts because they weren't really punk. They were something else.
Right.
And I don't know if they fit into anybody's box. And
and I don't think they looked the part either.
Right.
So we're talking about the Violent Femmes is a trio.
Yes.
And it was Gordon Gano was the guitarist and lyricist.
Yes.
The singer.
Yes.
Brian Ritchie is the bass player, and really, the sound, and this is more your area than mine, but to me, my impression is the sound of this band has a lot to do with Brian Ritchie.
There's no doubt. For sure.
And then thrown into that is this Victor DiLorenzo is the drummer, but to call him a drummer is I think insulting to
drummers.
Because he really, we can talk about it a little more. He even invented his own instrument,
the Trancephone.
Yes. So let's kind of break these. Let's just run through the three of them.
Okay.
So first you got Gordon Gano.
Yes. By the way, these guys were 18 years old or so when they were.
When they were
making
a little
this
older.
Album. Okay. So he was a high school student.
Right. Well, most of the songs he wrote, most of the songs Now, when they started playing on the street, as you were talking about, they were playing a bunch of songs.
Right.
They picked whatever 10 of them that went on this album, but the whole second album, basically, they were playing
right.
all those songs at the same time.
Yes, I didn't realize that, but that second album was written concurrently.
Yeah, and it was just it's what they were playing on the streets in their early shows or whatever.
Yes.
And most of those songs, Gordon wrote when he was 15.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, he was like sitting in study hall bored and was writing lyrics to songs. Yeah,
and it's amazing. I mean, it's such a high school experience on, I mean, it's a very intense high school experience, but I think we can all sort of relate to it in some ways.
Well, I think that's what he talks about, the appeal and the long-term appeal, and how it keeps this album keeps finding an audience.
Yes,
because it isn't somebody writing about teenage angst.
It's an actual teenager.
It's a teenager sharing his real experiences.
Yes, no, I think that's definitely part of the magic.
And loneliness and shyness and all these kind of themes that kind of run through all this is because that was sort of him.
I mean, he was articulate enough to do it at that age. I mean, that's the thing. It's not just plenty of 15-year-olds are probably out there writing songs, but he was articulate enough and found a group of musicians who were able to just bring this to life. So he does have a really unique voice.
He does.
Yeah, and I feel like his voice is sort of the prototypical pop punk voice.
100%. Yeah.
So.
Did you hear what Rolling Stone said about him?
Go ahead. Maybe, I don't know. Go on.
Rolling Stone's first review of them said Gordon's voice could empty a room faster than a methane explosion.
Wow. No, I don't think his voice is. I think his voice is fine. It's not hard to listen to. I don't find him difficult to listen to at all.
And there's a lot of. There's a lot of that youthful. I mean,
energy.
You could tell he was young, but there's a lot of youthful, almost fear and reluctance, and it all kind of gets expressed through that.
What the quote that I saw describing his voice was sociopathic. His sociopathic vocal delivery, and most often he's compared to person named Johnathan Richman from a band called the Modern Lovers. And if you listen to that, you'll be able to hear that comparison. Yeah. But that's not what he was trying to do. He wanted to sound like Dream Syndicate, actually. So if you want to check on some of the influences, check out Modern Lovers and Dream Syndicate, and you can sort of hear the germ of the Violent Femmes forming.
So they were, I don't know if we actually pointed this out, but they're from Milwaukee.
Yes,
they're a Milwaukee band, and they went out and when they couldn't get gigs, they were performing in the street as this trio, which I think shaped a lot of their sound. The acousticness of them. Right.
Well, when you talk about Brian. Yes, I mean to follow up on that because I completely agree. They did have to have acoustic instruments. So Brian Ritchie, the bassist, plays an acoustic bass. That is the sound of this band, is the acoustic bass.
All right, I have lots of questions here.
Okay.
So, right, it's an acoustic bass.
Right.
Well, other than an upright bass, you don't see an acoustic bass.
You don't see it very often. No, and this is a large-looking guitar. It looks like a normal...
I don't know what
it looks like an acoustic guitar. Except it's larger and it's a bass. Now that's not what you saw. Okay, so if you watch the Milwaukee show, he's playing an acoustic bass that looks like a big acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
When we saw him, he was playing a weird-looking acoustic bass. I finally tracked this down. You could buy yourself one of these basses. Yeah. It is, I kid you not, it is a Big Johnson bass.
Nice.
And they make basses, and they make models of basses like that.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to describe. I encourage everybody to just Google Big Johnson bass. You won't be disappointed. But it has the bass part of it, but then it has another sort of tail, but that's connecting to the fretboard. I don't know what. Yeah, and so it looks like I don't know, like a Loch Ness monster or something. But then it has holes cut out of it, and it's supposed to be if you believe the Big Johnson Bass Company, it's an outstanding bass.
Well, he talks highly about the sound he gets,
yes,
and it's truly distinctive. And actually, Gordon is very complimentary of him, that even when someone else picks up that bass, it doesn't sound like how he plays. You know, what he can get out of it.
He plays with a lot of power, and again, I think being like in the punk-ish genre, I think he just plays with a lot of anger. Like this band plays with a lot of edge.
But it's interesting because Gordon is really a rhythm guitar player.
Yes.
He's not like a virtuoso
guitarist. No, and I mean when you hear solos in this by the Violent Femmes, they're usually bass solos.
Right. So it's really the power of Brian Ritchie and that bass is what drives that instrument, because the third member of this group, the percussionist, is Victor De Lorenzo.
Right. And so he plays in a way, again, that suits playing outdoors, busking, you know. So he just brings a snare drum, a foot pedal, like a little bass drum, and then a trancephone, which is basically a metal bushel basket over a tom. So if you think about,
so is that the Weber grill he had on stage?
On stage, he had a Weber grill.
He did.
Yes. Yeah, he literally was playing a Weber grill.
And he
round kind, like the charcoal round kind.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
He plays a lot with brushes.
Yeah, so you get sort of this metallic sound because you're playing with metal, and by brushes these are like alternatives to drumsticks. It creates a different sound. I mean, you'd hear jazz musicians use brushes all the time. You know, we're not talking about toothbrushes. We're talking about
brushes.
Yeah. So then an actual, something a percussionist would use, it would be in their toolbox. But yeah, you get this brush sound, these metal against metal sound, and it gives it a really interesting. And he does mostly play on brushes on the snare as well. And again, if you're busking, if you're outdoors playing acoustically, if you're hitting with drumsticks, it's going to be too loud. You're going to cover up the other instruments.
Yeah.
So playing with brushes is a way of still playing drums, but being a bit softer.
But it leads to a very kind of distinct sound, and the three of them together make a great kind of trio.
Right.
And
almost skiffle-like, really.
We knew we had to get there at some point.
No, there's definitely a skiffle
get your skiffle
edge
swag
to this band.
Yeah. That just totally threw my whole thing.
You should have known it was coming. I thought you'd be ready for it. Here, can I ask you a question? So here's the interesting thing that kept coming up as I was sort of researching this, and it made me think. Because they didn't get a ton of radio airplay. They were, I mean, some of the songs, I mean, did you catch them on the radio?
Well, I mean, Blister in the Sun, you heard on the radio, and I couldn't tell you if that was at that era. I mean, you know all the songs.
That's what I'm saying.
You didn't say anything yet.
No, this is exactly my point. They're what you would probably call a college band. They became popular by word of mouth. A lot of their songs are not radio friendly, unless they were edited or whatever. And I know Blister in the Sun probably was on. And I don't know if we're talking about the album yet, but I'm just going to say, if you only know the one or two popular songs from this album, just listen to the whole album, because the whole album's great.
And you would know the songs.
Yeah. I mean, and so what kept coming up over...
Couldn't name them, but you know them.
Yeah. They kept coming up over and over and over is people telling stories about how it was just on somebody, like a friend gave them a copy of a tape, like a mixtape, and it had these songs. Or this song was playing at a party, or this album was playing. And so it's almost like their popularity was almost completely by word of mouth. And So anyways, I was just curious if you how you found out about them, if it was on the radio or if it was just from hearing it.
I'm assuming Blister in the Sun ranks somewhere.
No, none of them rank anywhere.
Because I mean, I can recall hearing that on the radio, and maybe it was.
I mean, it could have been regional. I mean,
I don't
We
know.
heard "Blister in the Sun."
But wasn't "Gone Daddy Gone"?
That was the
single?
the single.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the single.
So before we get too deep into the individual tracks, because there's some that we have to talk about.
Right.
Why don't you tell the story of their first gig?
I actually with the the Pretender. Are you talking about the Pretenders?
That was their first
yeah.
gig.
So members of the Pretenders
They were
discovered them. They were performing in Milwaukee.
The Pretenders were performing in Milwaukee,
right,
at the Oriental Theater or something.
And happened to wander past them.
And they were playing out on the street trying to find an audience, so they decided they were going to set up in, where there'd be a line of people waiting to get into a concert that couldn't run away from them.
Yeah, and they and the Pretenders thought they were pretty good, and invited them to open up for them
that night.
It's pretty amazing.
So you go from a street performer with you used the term, right? What that's called?
Busking.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, playing for donations, putting your hat out there, or opening up your guitar case and setting it down, and hoping people throw in a couple dollars.
But I think they were doing it more for trying to get people to listen to them, right? Trying to get their music out there.
Yeah, one way or the other. I'm sure
it's cool, and
I'm sure
this
they wouldn't turn away a couple dollars.
Sure. But Gordon was very, very young. But the other two were a bit older and were actually had some seasoning. They played as a rhythm section together.
Okay.
So they had a little more. So it just kind of seems weird that they're out there playing with this kid on the street. And if you haven't seen Gordon Gano, he looked like he was 18 when he was 18.
Sure.
He looked very, very young.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the video
he's not a tall person. He's
right.
Yeah. So he looks young now too.
Yeah, somehow he's aged pretty well,
Yeah.
despite his issues.
So, imagine playing on the street, having a hope and a dream, and then being discovered by the Pretenders and brought in, and your very first show, kind of in front of any sort of audience other than people passing on the street, is 2,000 people opening for a major band at the time. That is.
Well, this album was self-funded.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, so they had to borrow money from maybe the drummer's dad. One of the dads kicked in like 10 grand, so they could record it. They recorded it in the music mecca of Lake Geneva, Wisconsin.
Which, for the people that aren't familiar with Lake Geneva, it's like a resort town.
Yeah.
I don't know, 70 miles from Chicago or something.
Yeah,
that's
it's very pleasant.
It's a lake town, where the semi-wealthy have their homes. Yeah.
Yeah, there are. Some of the really wealthy have their homes. I mean, the Wrigley's have their homes there and things like that.
All right, throw that out.
Yeah, well, like the mansions, and then there's other people that have.
Right, their summer mansions.
There's right.
Where they keep their summer.
But it is a nice place to visit, and it's a playground for a lot of people in Chicago.
So let's touch on a couple of. So we talked about some instruments. We talked about the acoustic bass. But there's a couple of other instruments that pop up.
Okay.
And I'm not the maestro of music, so I'm guessing based on hearing. Then I haven't researched this at all.
Okay, I'm not sure. These are all the instruments that I know of, so I'm not sure what you're going to throw at me. But go on.
Go on, Daddy, go on. Doesn't
the xylophone
have a xylophone?
Yeah, it has a xylophone in it,
and then
possibly the greatest rock xylophone song ever. The best xylophone solo in the history of rock and roll.
All right. Yeah, so that was it. I mean, that's it. It's a xylophone. Just a xylophone.
Yep.
All right. Good talking points.
Yeah.
And then the other thing you notice...
Played by Brian Ritchie, the bassist, plays it.
And then the other instrument you notice both during the show and on Good Feelings is a violin.
Yes, which Gordon played.
Gordon played the violin, yeah. So
which had to make him... I would have been a wreck to be in front of a professional symphony orchestra and...
With your hand-me-down...
With your...
$40 violin.
But it didn't seem to bother him. He did a good job on it.
Well, he probably makes more than them.
There's a good chance. There's a good chance.
Yeah.
He might even have a house on Lake Geneva. I don't know.
Okay, so Maestro.
Yes.
My next question, if you're prepared.
Here we go. We'll find out.
Blister in the Sun,
All
starting at there's 10 songs on this album.
Yes.
I have like questions about like 3 of them.
Okay.
Blister in the Sun, is it a blister in the sun or I blister in the sun?
What? Let me go off like a blister in the sun is what I believe the lyric is. Is that what you're asking?
No, because I've heard it both ways. I've heard him say it both ways.
Well, apparently he's not that attached to that lyric then.
No, well, he said
Let's say it again. So I've always thought like a blister in the sun. And what is the alternative lyric that you're offering?
So he says that when he writes, and he I don't know, I think he was trying to say it was some sort of learning disability, but sometimes when he's writing lyrics, instead of writing I, he writes A. So I went to the store. When he actually reads it out loud, it says A went to the store.
Okay.
And he doesn't know if it's originally.
So he wrote down a certain lyric and he doesn't know if that's what he meant. Is that what you're telling me?
And he says it works both ways.
Yeah.
A blister in the sun or I blister in the sun.
Okay.
Which is interesting. Listen
like
to
I blister in the sun.
Yeah. Like I
Fair enough. It could go either way. Maybe it just depends what mood he's in.
Yeah. And so he can't tell you what the original is, and he can't tell you how he sings it.
He just whatever if he's feeling at that time.
Yeah. So
okay, that's cool. I didn't actually know.
Yeah, that. I've wondered about it. So
no, I was more fascinated by Big Hands, like the Big Hands reference. Big Hands, you know you're the one. And
well, they're not.
So well, I do know the story.
It's not exactly a romantic statement, is it? I mean,
well, no.
Hey, Big Hands.
No, actually, it's quite the opposite. I mean, I'm not. I think. So he said a girl wouldn't go out with him because she said his hands were too small. And so he's just saying, "Big hands, you're the one."
Yeah.
So that's my understanding of that lyric.
It's interesting. I listened to just him comment a little bit on a couple of songs, and he was asked kind of if these were autobiographical.
Mm-hmm.
And my impression of his answer was they're more autobiographical than he's comfortable admitting.
I would expect that. Every single song is about drugs or being high or being a loser in high school.
Yeah.
So, and the anger.
So he says you're
that.
right. So he says it's a character. You know that some of it is him, but some of it's a character.
And like I said earlier in the show, like that's the beauty of this. It's like taking that high school experience, but turning it up to 11, and so there's a real intensity to it, even to maybe what the most, a more casual experience might be that normal people have. He's cranking it up, the intensity level.
You think about this. He's 15, 16, 17 years old writing these songs.
Yeah.
When the album was released, he was only 20.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So that's, probably a year after it was recorded and several years after they started playing together.
Right.
And he's writing these songs. And some of them, like Blister in the Sun, there's, we probably said the whole song lyric, right? I mean, there's not a whole lot to it.
Right.
And then added up, it's like 1,000 words.
Yeah, right.
It's,
the crazy.
Brian Ritchie called it almost a proto, like a proto-rap song, like an early.
Well, because it's kind of spoken word. Yeah, I
yeah.
could see that a little bit. But
yeah,
that might be a little generous.
Well, Gordon ties it more to like Blondie.
I can see that.
Blondie was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of those influences.
Yeah, the thing that's interesting to me, since you talked, you're fascinated by the age, is how convincing they still perform this music today.
Oh, yeah.
And again, going back to that live performance of a year ago, they just sounded amazing, and they're all in on these songs. Like, you didn't get the feeling that they didn't want to be there. They were enjoying performing these songs.
No, it was really good. So, Now I don't know which one it is.
Well, we talked about Blister in the Sun. We talked about Add It Up a little bit.
Add It Up.
Which, again, is a song that you would not have heard on the radio.
Couldn't be on the radio.
Right, but we all knew the song.
We all knew the song. Absolutely.
That's what how did we know that song?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
And so we would have been, 83, we would have still been in high school, yeah.
Right.
So he's a little bit older than we are, but not much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Please Don't Go.
Yep. A little bit of a reggae sound to it.
I was going to say, they think it's a reggae song.
Sure. It's there. Well, when you're talking about reggae, like when you're talking about styles of music, you're part of what you should be paying attention to is just the bass line or the drums or something like that, or the interaction between the drums and the bass.
Yeah.
Because that defines a lot of styles. So you could take a reggae beat and create another type of music around it, and then you have sort of a multi-style of music. But there's definitely a reggae element to that song, without question.
I'll give you that.
Yeah.
So you have a very kind of poppy, you got a lot of punk, you got a little reggae in there.
Yeah.
Confessions, he said, was probably influenced by all the musicals he'd seen with his parents were either in musicals or directed musicals or so it was kind of that sort of spoken or softer introduction to that song is kind of, he thinks it was influenced by that.
Okay.
But it's really, I think this is one where he doesn't know how to describe it because he called it a flight of fancy, but it's probably him just daydreaming or.
Well, there's a ton of emotion in in all of these songs, and
angst,
and I don't know if everybody understands all their emotions that they experience, and certainly when you're a high school student, you probably don't. Which reminds me, the album cover. Sorry to just jump in on this, but the album cover's to me a really famous cover.
Picture of a little girl.
Picture of a little girl peering in a window. It was taken, I think, a 7-year-old girl. Oh no, 3-year-old girl, and it was just randomly. This person's walking down the street in Laurel Canyon, and the
pretty far from Milwaukee.
Well, they didn't take. There's a professional photographer. I don't know that they were part of it, or because they had signed in L.A. So the album was produced in L.A.
by
L.A.
Slash.
Yeah,
right?
Slash Records.
Yeah,
and they. But the nice thing, so now we're mixing stories here. Sorry about that. But since you brought it up, though, the album was basically unchanged. They had recorded the album. They had a finished, completed album, and the record company put it out as it was. So there was there were no executives or anything making them change things around. So anyways, maybe this is how the picture got taken in Laurel Canyon. But they told this girl, and the girl's just walking by with her mom, and the photographer said, "Hey, I'll give you $100 if I could take a picture." And they told the girl to look in the window. There are animals in there, and if you just look through the window, you'll be able to see, like, I don't know, a goat or a cow. I don't know. I wasn't there.
Animals.
And that's how they took the picture. And the girl was like really mad that there were no animals, but they got the picture. But I read a couple reviews of this album cover, and this all circles back to what we're talking about, being in high school and not understanding your emotions or your feelings.
Yeah.
And even he's writing things down, and he doesn't even understand what he's possibly experiencing. But two things. One review of it says the album cover is a microcosm of what the album is about: being young, confused, and peering into a world that you couldn't possibly understand. And I think it captures it really well. And then another person said the album cover is an apt metaphor for the band's songs, which capture that precise moment when child innocence is corrupted by the accessions of adult world. So,
or it's just a little girl looking in a window.
Or it's just a little girl looking in a window.
All right.
But my point being, and what sparked that was just, he's writing all this emotional music and probably not even understanding it himself.
Right. So it's just trying to express himself.
Yes, exactly.
The other one that's kind of interesting is he wrote it trying to be like Prince, the To the Kill.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he writes the lyrics or whatever and does the tune, but really the other two guys do the arrangement.
Create the song.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
And so it didn't quite work out that way, but it's kind of funky, has a funky beat to it, and that's kind of tied into him trying to get to the Prince kind of space.
All right. Well,
So
you have to get Brian Ritchie to just... Do you say, hey, Brian, play something like Prince?
Yeah.
And based on what I understand, Brian probably said, I'm going to play it like this.
Right. So again, it's it's kind of, you got this. I mean, there's clearly a lot of punk influence. There's pop influence in this album. You got a little bit of the reggae. You got the musical. You got a little bit of, early rap. You got a little funk from Prince in here. It's kind of cool how kind of all this stuff gets tied together.
Yeah.
Gone Daddy Gone.
Yep.
Man, just
Again, xylophone.
But he talks about, so he was throwing in like spitball and stuff while they were performing on the streets.
Okay.
Are you aware of this?
I don't think I am.
And he was like grabbing lyrics and from elsewhere and using it. So he quoted a Willie Dixon
Yes,
song.
I Just Want to Make Love to You.
Yeah,
Yes.
in the middle of it. And they recorded it in the final song.
Okay.
And then they had to go back and compensate the Willie Dixon estate or whatever much, much later when they kind of got...
When the lawyers found out.
Right.
And it's really only a couplet. It's only 2 lines.
Yeah.
It's not like they plagiarized the entire song.
So you think they'd be upset about having to give money over to the estate of Willie Dixon or whatever, or compensate the estate of it. But actually Gordon talks about it as like, I co-wrote a song with Willie Dixon.
Yeah.
I get co-writing credit with Willie Dixon.
Yep. Great Chicago blues man, by the way. That's going to come up later in the show.
That's very cool.
Yeah. Did you know the video was produced by Steve Martin?
Steve Martin?
No, not that Steve Martin. But the guy's name that produced the video.
I was going to say,
Martin.
a wild and crazy guy?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I just had to throw that in.
Yeah, fine. And then the final song is... it's a very pretty, very different kind of end of a song.
Good Feeling.
Yeah, Good Feeling. He plays. Gordon plays the violin on that, as we kind of touched about. And he doesn't think it's about this, but his bandmates kind of believe this is about that feeling you get like when drugs are wearing off.
Yes, I think I've heard that as well.
Yeah.
I think.
But he sings it very.
Oh no,
very
it's
light
certainly
and
very
frail.
heartfelt and lovely, and yeah, there's room to. As I said, I think pretty much every song on this album probably is about drugs or sex or not getting sex or whatever. But it can be interpreted in a larger sense. Like the songs are more profound than that.
Yeah.
In some way, and maybe it's just the raw emotion of it, but there's definitely a profoundness to this music that's beyond all the little components. There are 2 additional songs that were on the CD only. I don't know if you know that. So
the CD came out much later.
Yeah, and they tacked on Ugly, which probably but then Gimme the Car, which I
Oh yeah.
And that song should have been on the original album because it fits right in.
Agreed. I was going to say that for as strong and powerful as as Brian Ritchie is and the drums, that they really leave a lot of space for the lyrics.
Yeah.
Because these songs are all, I think, lyrically driven, and they allow those to shine.
Yeah, and I think actually the way they produce the song, like mix the song, does that as well. Because I think there's enough, there's a lot of instrumental parts, like there's bass solos and xylophone solos. But when the singing is going on...
I think one of them starts with a drum solo.
Right. When the singing is happening, you pay attention to the lyrics.
Yeah.
But then, and they stay out of the way. But then they have the opportunity at other times to really show off. And I mean, the bass playing in particular is stellar.
It is.
That's a really good observation, I think.
All right. Landmark album, perfect album.
Well, for me, if you include Gimme the Car, which is a CD only, there's 7 favorites on this album. It's more than a perfect album. It's almost like a double perfect album. It's not quite a double perfect. They're not all favorites. It's an 11. So it's definitely a great album as far as I'm concerned. I think this album is not in the top 500 for Rolling Stone. Criminally, this is an amazing album. I think it's a prototype pop punk, indie rock type of album. I read some review or saw something where it said this was the best, one of the best albums of the 90s, but it was made in 1983. Like that's how forward thinking it is.
Well, it definitely had legs. It stayed around.
They're considered alt-rock pioneers. They're influenced. I don't think we brought up the word folk punk, which is probably where this fits most.
Gotta write that one.
Yeah, I think this is a folk. I think if I was going to give it one genre, it would be folk punk. But definitely indie rock. You got the.
I was going with pop punk, but okay.
No, I think it led to pop punk. I think it's a prototype. I know you like to talk about grandfathers of that. I think it's a prototypical pop punk album.
The Godfather of pop punk.
The Godfather of pop punk, maybe.
Like the Godfather of yacht rock.
Like you say.
I didn't say who.
You were about to.
Didn't.
And then, if I don't know if you can tell where I'm going with this, but it's a landmark album. Yeah, it's a big time landmark album.
It is. And it's criminal. It's not on the Rolling Stones ranking. It's criminal. It didn't have some number 1 songs, but I get it. You know. It
was kind of underground, and they were ahead of their times, and they were too cool for radio, quite honestly.
It's if you haven't listened to it or haven't listened to it in a while, give it a spin. It deserves it. All right, we're gonna have to leave that there, and we now have a live read.
2 Fat Guys in an Album is sponsored by Deeper Connections Counseling, helping people connect to themselves, the people they love, and the world around them through individual and couples therapy for Illinois residents, both in person and online. More information at dcctherapy.com.
Yeah, and I've said it many times, but you're worth it. If you need somebody to talk to, find somebody to talk to. If you're in Illinois, these are great people to talk to. If you're not, find somebody in your area. You're worth it. Your relationships are worth it. The people around you are worth it. Sadly, talking about music, you hear an awful lot of situations that end poorly, and doesn't need to. So, you got struggling with something. Find somebody to talk to. Your marriage is worth it. Your relationships are worth it. So,
yes.
Excellent. And we got a couple other messages.
Hey, 2 Fat Guys and an Album fans. This is Diane Blackburn, realtor with Baird & Warner and proud sponsor of this podcast. I pride myself in being committed to serve as a trusted real estate advisor for all my clients. Whether you're looking to sell, buy, rent, or lease, feel free to reach out and let's chat about how we can work together to make it happen. If you're watching, scan the QR code for my website or give me a call at 630-638-1999. See you on the flip side.
Are you someone who needs help with their Instagram or TikTok? Well, you're in luck. LR Media is here to help. Email me at laurarose2003@aol.com to get started. Let's make your social media shine.
All right, welcome to side 2. So this is kind of where we talk a little bit about what we're listening to, new music we might have found, some old music we may have been, rediscovered or bumped into again and would like to kind of bring up and talk to. So I will let the maestro begin.
Okay, well, I have a couple things. First is your favorite band, or one of them, Car Seat Headrest.
Oh, I love Car Seat Headrest.
Yeah, they've actually they're dropping a new album on May 1st called The Scholars. But they've got a couple pre-release songs that you can listen to now. And I actually discovered this on the radio. So I'm Gonna Stay With You was the first song that I heard from it. And it was It was nice. The first time I listened to it, I thought it was a little poppy. But then I heard it again and realized it was an 8-minute song. And do they write 3-minute songs? I'm just
don't.
curious.
And God, I hope they never do.
Yeah.
I love everything about them.
Yeah, because the second time I heard it, I kind of liked it a little bit more. And I've only heard it a couple times, but I knew you'd like to hear that. And then Gethsemane, an 11-minute song.
Yes.
So I thought this was a really cool one. To me, sounds a little psychedelic rock. I hear like a little early Black Sabbath going on, or early Genesis.
But it changes.
It changes, yes.
There's like 3 acts to it.
Exactly. I was going to say that. It's like an epic song.
Yeah.
And each song has a little bit of a different sound to it. It's kind of an epic song.
Yeah.
So I really like that.
It's cool.
And I figured you'd be into it.
So, unfortunately, they are coming to Chicago. They're coming to the Salt Shed. Unfortunately, the Maestro cannot go with me, and Chauncey has turned me down.
Oh, my gosh.
So, anybody out there want to go to a concert with the
ticket
the host
giveaway?
and narrator?
Do we have a ticket giveaway?
I will. Yeah, I will. I will pop for the ticket if you want to go with me.
You just have to
car
sit next
seat
to
headrest.
him.
Yeah, sit next to me too. Yeah. I ain't standing.
No.
All right.
Oh, can I say, I don't know if we mentioned this, but we went to see a show at the Salt Shed recently.
Yeah. Bright Eyes.
The comfiest seats I have ever sat in a concert venue. And look, you can judge all you want. I was comfortable the entire night.
It wasn't just the padding was good. They were wide.
They were wide.
They were fat guy friendly.
They were so... Oh my gosh! I have never been that comfortable in a concert venue. So if you in the place, appeared to be a sold out show.
It was.
There was a massive humanity on the floor, which normally we would be part of, but getting up there in age a little bit. I didn't mind one bit.
No.
Sitting in my comfy seat, and we were center stage.
I could not. I bought these tickets. I could not get the aisle seats, so I just said, well, if we're not going to be on the aisle, we're going to be dead center.
Yeah.
And we were so it's the Salt Shed. It's a weird venue because the majority of everything close. There's no like seats close.
No, it's huge. It's
so you could fit like 3,000 people or 4,000 people on the floor.
Yeah.
And then when you get through all of that to the very back, then starts the actual seats go up from there. Risers go up from there. And I don't know how the seats up top are like, but the seats, we were maybe 8th row, 6th row back.
At the most.
4th.
I thought it was 4th, actually. But there were cup holders.
Right. Right. It was
they had all the accoutrements.
Wide. So those seats
it was missing everything but a footrest and a back massager, quite honestly.
Well, and a couple rows forward, we could have had rails to put our feet on.
Yeah, they had rails and lots of leg room.
It was very, very nice. And that... We've just given a review about the seats.
Yes.
We haven't even talked about the band. Bright Eyes was very good.
Fantastic. They're a great band.
They
we
are.
should do their new album as well.
We should do that in one of them.
So,
upcoming
fantastic
shows.
Band, fantastic concert. Go see Bright Eyes live wherever you live. And if you've wondered about the Salt Shed, if you want to stand, you can get right up to the stage and do that scene if you like. But if you're of an advanced age and...
Or just like being comfortable.
If you like being comfortable and not on your feet for 4 hours, buy the seats. And actually the cool thing is...
Don't buy seats. Leave them for us. Don't buy them.
That's right. I forgot. We don't want to...
Yeah.
But if you buy the seats,
we'll go with you.
You can still go on the floor if you want. So that's kind of a nice bonus.
It is. It is.
So you can buy the seats, be comfortable in the intermissions, or if there's like 3 opening acts. I mean... The last time we stood there were so many opening acts. I thought I was going to die.
Yeah.
But at any rate, that's that. Is it next top me?
Yeah.
Again.
Sure. Well, I can go if you want.
I'll let you go.
So I kind of stumbled upon this song again. I shared it with you. River of Deceit.
Yes.
By Mads.
Can I tell you, you're not going to believe this, but I heard this song yesterday on the radio as well. And I'm familiar with the band. So say the band's name one more time.
Mad Seasons.
Yeah, I may have talked over you a little bit.
Yeah. A supergroup.
Supergroup, for sure.
So my understanding, I could be wrong, but my understanding was that these gentlemen met in rehab.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I think that's the story of the band.
So it's Mike McCready of Pearl Jam, Lane Staley of Alice in Chains, Barrett Martin of Screaming Trees, and the bassist was John Baker Saunders, who played with a number of different bands.
And their intention was to be sober.
Right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think
Two of them.
Two of them lost that fight.
Yes.
Yeah.
And not too long after the album either, actually.
Yeah, but it's a. They did one album in March 1995. The song is part of that album. I think Lane died.
99, I think.
Yeah, a couple years after that, and John died. Not recent, within the last 4 or 5 years.
Oh, is it that
Yeah,
recent?
yeah.
I thought it was.
No, so these are phenomenal musicians, and so they kind of had a band with a cause.
Yeah.
Which was each other.
Yes.
Which is very cool.
Yeah, it's
Great idea. If you're having issues, find somebody to talk to.
It's a great idea.
So, but I thought it was very, very cool.
And the song again?
River of Deceit.
Yeah, really great song. Off
their only album.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Above.
And they're like a Seattle band, I believe, or Pacific Northwest-ish type band. So they're sort of.
They're the Seattle grunge scene.
Yeah. So that was the interesting thing about it, is it didn't sound especially grungy to me. It had a kind of a. I mean that influence is for sure there, but the album does not sound especially grungy to me.
So I mean that's Alice. I suppose if you put Alice in Chains, Pearl Jam, and Screaming Trees into a blender, this is kind of what you get. Yeah.
So that is a really great song. There's quite a few other really good songs.
It is. It's a good album, and appreciate it, and I think it's worth mentioning. I was in. For work, I travel. I've talked about that before. I was in New Orleans since last time we talked, and there was a jazz festival going on there. And New Orleans, there's just a lot of great music all over the place. We talk about street performers. You get street performers. You get and that could be one person, two persons, three persons. The kid playing the bucket on the side of the street, and some. Other remarkable groups. Wandered into a venue, kind of poked my head in, and whoever was on stage was doing this remarkable full throat kind of cover of Tom Waite, Wrong Side of the Road, which got me to go back and pull.
Take a look at Tom. Went down the Tom Waits
rabbit
Waite hole.
Yeah, but I mean, Wrong Side of the Road is just
because we were talking about Tom Waits.
We were. So he performed on the album with
Sparkle Horse,
right?
Yes.
And
Dog Door.
And we were kind of critical of that song being out of place on that album.
Yes, I liked the song actually quite a bit, but it was completely different from the mood of the rest of the album.
Correct. But that doesn't take away from the artistry of Tom Waite.
Right, I agree.
Or Tom Waits. And Wrong Side of the Road, the song, as long as you don't pay too close of attention to the lyrics, it's wonderful. It opens with "Put a dead cat on the railroad track" as the opening line of the
Someone's
song.
going to write a letter.
It I mean, it's...
Well, the cat's already dead.
I know.
So.
It's I don't know where he's going with all this. It just gets weirder from there. So,
yeah.
But the delivery, the style, you're going to have to help me here. What's he?
Well, it depends what song you're listening to. Honestly, I mean, his music is really expansive. I mean, he plays a lot of different styles. I think really commonly I hear him playing, and I honestly don't know this song exactly or what the cover sounded exactly. But it's very, like it's a rock, a jazz background. Like a lot of his music has the swings, it has this walking bass to it, and so it sounds kind of jazzy. And then you throw Tom Waits' gravelly, growling voice on top of that.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, I mean, if you wanted to have a precedent for that, you could go with Louis Armstrong, possibly, just a little.
Yeah,
I mean, Tom Waits is much, I'd say, more abrasive, but
yeah, I don't know where you.
But if you want to think of a gravelly jazz singer, Louis Armstrong would fit in with that. But he's I think he's an artiste. You know, I think he has a lot of different sounds he goes for. He's dabbled in avant-garde stuff and electronic music and just hard rock, industrial, as we had said. But I think probably what you listened to was really jazz with just a different type of vocal style.
Yeah, I think there was jazz is probably not too far off, but there was a kind of almost a bluesy delivery by the person doing it.
Right.
You know.
Well, and again, thinking of musical styles, I would just go back to what I said about reggae earlier. Like, you can identify style based on drum patterns and bass lines. Mm-hmm. So you could literally go in and if you're in a band or a jazz group or something, or in a studio even, and say, hey, I want this song to be a reggae sounding song, and the rhythm section would play a certain thing, and then you could do whatever the heck you wanted over it. You could make it sound like traditional reggae, or you could just have a reggae sounding band and then do whatever you like. And you could do the same thing for jazz or hip hop or rock or whatever. So if you've kind of put some focus on bass lines and drum patterns, then you can identify specific styles.
Okay, so those are my two. So Wrong Side of the Road, Tom Waits, and by the supergroup Mad Seasons from the Above album, River of Deceit.
All right. We got time for one more?
Yeah, give me one more.
Okay, well, last week I think we talked about possibly sneaking an album review type of thing into this, because it is the what's going on part of the show, what's new, So, and I like that idea because we're doing obviously the classic stuff, and then our third album usually isn't something new, but we do listen to a lot of new music.
We do.
And so I'm just going to go with, I've also thought about this a bit and realized that I'm probably not a very good reviewer, because like even if you read Pitchfork or Rolling Stones, you can agree with them or disagree with them. They tend to write really well. Like those people, they are very good writers.
No, I'm super impressed with how Rolling Stone kind of it's good. It has a good beat. You can dance to it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, 2 thumbs up. I'll give it a 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so I'm not going to pretend to be able to do that kind of review because they talk about music very well. But I will say, I did listen to Mumford and Sons' new album, Rushmere. Rushmere, M-E-R-E. That's their first album in 7 years together. Yeah, because Marcus Mumford had gone solo for a bit and was doing some more guitar-based type music, a little poppy or whatever. I don't know. Apparently, he didn't like making $1 billion doing what he was doing before. Just I wanted to do something different.
Yeah.
But this is the reunion of the band. It's their first album, their 5th studio album overall. So I probably knew this, but forgot it. But do you know where they're from?
No.
They're British.
Really?
Yeah, it's a British band. It caught me.
I was going to go Texas.
Yeah, sort of a folk, considered folks rock. You get I think Mumford and Sons credited quite a bit with bringing the sound of the banjo to rock music and kind of merging that. So this album definitely is more of the Mumford and Sons variety. It's not. It goes back. It harkens back to their folk rock days, and I definitely like this version of Mumford and Sons better than his solo stuff.
Any particular songs?
Yeah, well, the first 3 songs, I believe, are Malibu, Caroline, and Rushmere. That's 1, 2, 3. The Rushmere is what I would call the most Mumford and Sonsy. You would recognize it immediately. It has like the bass on the floor, the bass drum beat going on and the banjo going wild.
So do you don't think if you sent this into Rolling Stone and just said it's Mumford and Sons, they would write they would would publish you?
I would willing to give it a try, but this is all I got. I'm sorry. I'm going to tell you.
Maestro playing music, not right. Maestro writing about
I
it.
I agree with that. I do not doubt that. I don't think I'm a bad writer either, but those guys can write.
Yeah. They're very flowery.
Yeah, I'm going to say this is actually a perfect album. I listened to the entire album, listened to it straight through a couple times. There's 10 songs on it. They're all excellent. They're all very listenable. Also, they were smart and didn't put 14 songs on it, so they picked their best 10 and didn't water it down. No filler, all killer, no filler.
So did Violent Femmes.
Exactly, exactly. Kept it short and sweet. I'm giving it 4.5 deep dish pizzas.
We're still working on that is not what we're going to go with, but we're still working on how we're going to call these reviews.
Okay, 4.5 vinyls? I don't know.
I don't.
All right, put in the comments. Give me an idea. I know you still somehow think rock is dead, and I know you bemoaned seeing them at the Chicago Theater, which is a bit of a smaller theater.
I didn't bemoan it.
You did.
Well, because it was
$700
a ticket.
Right, I know. So we can see.
Would you go?
I didn't.
We
can see them cheaper. They're coming to the United Center. So are they? So they're going to play a stadium. They're playing an arena.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. In the door, $150. In the door.
Yeah.
I think the ticket prices are going to go down. They're not coming to Chicago till October 8th. So I'm going to wait for some prices.
Sadly, what I'm thinking is United Center has some comfortable seats.
The United Center's not hard.
Yeah.
They're
comfy.
It's not bad. They're a little more narrow.
Yeah. They are.
They don't have the.
Well, I don't know.
They
if we're
don't
down
accommodate the girth quite as much as the Salt Shed did. But again, if you want to see them at Salt Shed, $700.
Well, that was Chicago Theater. Yeah.
Right. So anyways, that's it. That's our first semi-album review.
All right. Well, let's leave this here, and we got to switch discs and get over to side 3 after this announcement.
This episode of Two Fat Guys in an Album is brought to you by Smidge Films. If you're looking to bring your ideas to life with some cool cinematic work, Smidge Films has you covered. From brand stories to promos, we'll help you tell your story in a way that really sticks. Check us out and see what we can do for you.
Welcome to side 3, where we continue our search for the modern classics. This time, we got one, I think.
Yeah.
So Blues Traveler.
Yes.
Released a album in 2021 called Traveler Blues.
Clever. You see what they did there?
I do.
They took the names and they flipped them.
Yeah, it's just one extra letter in there, an apostrophe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So why don't you tell me about this?
Yeah, well, this was my pick.
It was.
This was my pick. And part of it is I know that you love Blues Traveler. You love John Popper.
I love John Popper.
Yeah.
I love a man with a harp,
yeah,
man.
And we saw him live, actually. So, Blues Traveler, first of all, more common, came to fame in the 1990s.
Yep.
Yeah, 94 with they had the album 4. They had the songs Run Around and Hook that charted in the U.S. So very popular 90s band who kind of I lost track of them after a while. They did lose their record deal in 2002, so they sort of became, I guess, independent or whatever at that point.
Well, they were a band to see. They were an event to go see than they were a chart band.
Right.
John Popper was is a speed harmonica player.
He's amazing.
It just I don't know, created his own little thing with the speed harmonica.
Right. And I'll say this because I brought up that we saw him live. He's actually doing that. Like, he could play all those songs note for note live. Yeah. Like, these are not studio tricks. The guy can play.
I was literally leaning on the stage and him standing up, right there.
Yeah, it was back in the olden days when we weren't sitting in the comfy chairs and we were in the front row,
Right.
standing by the stage.
Yeah, it was an outdoor venue, and we just kind of wandered up there and wandered real close, and
it's
was
amazing.
leaning on the stage.
Yeah.
But this is a total departure from that.
Well, I mean, the name of the band is Blues Traveler.
It is.
Blues Traveler is, by the way, sort of credited with reinvigorating the jam band scene as well, back in the 90s.
Sure.
So as just throwing that in there.
Yep.
So they do the extended solos and all that
Yep,
stuff.
yep.
They were fantastic live, just saying that. This particular album, called Traveler's Blues, it's a bunch of blues standards. Okay, so it's a bunch of, well, you might think of them as, what is that face? You always make faces when you don't.
Well, I
it's
don't think
really
these are
easy
blues standards.
They're blues standards. Do you know anything about the album?
Crazy?
Well, okay, so it's no, you're right. I mean, Crazies would be the outlier in that. But they're, you would think of them as cover songs, probably. You would probably say this is an album of covers.
This is an album of
Yeah,
covers.
except it's not, because if you're in the jazz world or the blues world, they're called standards. And one of the things that's, because it's true. All right, have your little chuckle.
All right, go
Done?
on. Yep.
Yeah, so one of the things that's really awesome in this type of music is hearing the reinvention of certain songs. And you go back, I don't know, name a song from the 30s or 40s. I'm thinking, I don't know, I can't pull a song right now. I'm thinking from The Wizard of Oz, Over the Rainbow. So that's a song that would be considered part of the American Songbook. That's a standard song that's been sung by many, 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 many people over the years. And hearing the various interpretations of that song. It's a great song on its own. The first person that sang it did an amazing job on it. But the reinventions of these songs and keeping these songs live and relevant, I love it. So do not think of it as a cover album. It is a collection of blues standards.
This is where you speed talk to try and
I'm not
convince
speed
me
talk.
of something.
Right, I'm trying to educate you. The first song.
But I don't see this as all.
The first
standards.
song was written by Son Seals from the Chicago Blues, a Chicago blues man. Fish does a great version. of the song.
So before you go.
Okay, go on.
Song for song through this.
The collaborators on here are amazing.
Well, that's kind of where I was going to go. So this is not just Blues Traveler and John Popper, singing all the time. This is every song, and I'd love to hear how he picked these songs or how they picked these songs. But everyone has a guest artist on the song with them.
Yes.
And
every guest artist is brilliant.
Yeah, to some extent. I think they got. I don't think he.
I mean, some are more famous
I don't think
than
he gave
others.
them. Well, famous or not, I don't think he necessarily gave them all the space to shine.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, I think you still want to hear blues. I think you still want to hear John Popper sing and play.
Yeah.
But I think on each song is, for the most part, I think the collaborators had a pretty strong say in them.
So the American Songbook of like Call Me the Breeze, Crazy, Roadhouse.
What's wrong
Blues.
with Call Me the Breeze by J.J. Cale? Do you know who J.J. Cale is?
No, I have no idea.
Okay,
J.J.
so this is where you're going to want to look things up before you say stupid things.
I have you. I don't need to look things
I know,
up.
but when I tell you something intelligent, you chuckle and smirk, and then tell me I'm speed talking. Okay, find out who J.J. Cale is, and then go to your uninformed opinions. Tore Down, the third song, written by, number 2, written by Lil Jimmy Reed, also a Chicago blues man. By the way, Chicago blues, sort of defined by electric guitar and an electric harp, electric harmonica. Like, you put those two things together, and you have definitive Chicago blues.
Sure.
You can take out the harmonica and you still have Chicago-style blues, but you add that harmonica in, and that's what it is. So Little Jimmy Reed, Chicago blues man. Tore Down, written by Freddie King. Okay, one of the three kings of the blues, along with B.B. and Albert.
Yeah.
Okay. Eric Clapton's known for doing a great version of this. Ball and Chain, written by Big Mama Thornton, Hall of Famer. All right.
Absolutely.
Who also was the original singer of Hound Dog. This song was sung by Janis Joplin. It features Kingfish Ingram on blues guitar and singing. This is actually probably my favorite song on the album. Like, if you just want to listen to one of them, I like it just because it's the mood of the song, and it's quite different from the Janis Joplin version.
You should, Ball and Chain would be the one that I kind of, you should go back and, with all of our free time in life, but go back and listen to this by Blues Traveler, and it's fine.
And Janis Joplin.
Go back and listen to the Janis Joplin version, and then go back and listen to Big Mama Thornton.
Yeah, right. And you're going to find out why she's in the Hall of Fame.
Right. No, they should all be in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
But it's an interesting version. Okay, so
so then you have Crazy, a little nod to a more modern song. Mm-hmm. But how old? I mean, that's
Gnarls Barkley.
What?
Is that like Gnarls Barkley? Yeah.
CeeLo Green and Danger Mouse. Do you know that? Gnarls Barkley was CeeLo Green and Danger Mouse.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that song, I'm thinking 20 years old. So that wasn't written last week either. Like, I hate to break it to you, but that's
the American Songbook and with Gnarls Barkley.
Yeah, John Scofield. Do you know who John Scofield is playing guitar on it?
I do.
Excellent. He's a fantastic jazz musician, legendary jazz guitarist. Sitting on Top of the World. That song goes all the way back to 1930. It's in the it's recognized by the Library of Congress. Warren Haynes from the Allman Brothers and Government Mule is playing. Warren Haynes playing on it.
Yeah.
Howlin', I think maybe. Well, Howlin' Wolf has done it. Chicago Blues Band, the Grateful Dead have done it. Cream has done it. Need Your Love So Bad. Country music. Then War and Treaty. This is a group I don't really know. Country husband, wife, and duo. Then War and Treaty. But written by Little Willie John in 1955. Roadhouse Blues. Famously by The Doors. Has been played by numerous people. Features Mickey Raphael, Willie Nelson's harmonica player, who's also performed with Wynton Marsalis and Warren Haynes and Blue Oyster Cult and Dave Matthews and Chris Stapleton. I mean, come on. Call Me the Breeze, J.J. Cale, look it up. Trouble in Mind, Kebmo on guitar, who's considered a link to the Delta Blues. He's touring this summer, and I forgot who with. But Trouble in Mind was written in 1926. These are legit, like, get an education on the blues. Listen to this album. Keep Your Light on Momma is an original. It's the only original on the song.
Yeah, it's yeah.
And it sounds a bit like Led Zeppelin. Keep Your Light on, Mom. It's got, to me, it has a Led Zeppelin sound. The featured artist is Jared James Nichols, who is from that music haven of East Troy, Wisconsin.
East Troy. Yeah.
But that is where Alpine Valley Music Theater
Right.
is.
That's true. Yeah.
So I don't know. You can smirk all you like. I think this is an education in the blues by some of the greatest performers, written by some of the greatest blues writers in history, performed by John Popper and Blues Traveler, some of the greatest musicians. And I can listen to every song in this track. This is also a perfect album. This is also a double perfect album for me. So smirk away.
No, it was cute.
Cute. You are special.
I mean, it was cute. It's a bunch of cover songs. It's a nice variation for them. I think his playing got a little lost sometimes. I think, some of these artists got overshadowed a little bit. I would have liked to have heard, some of them stand out, especially the Ball and Chain, and I don't know. It was, yeah, it was okay.
This is the album that I heard that made me I realized, oh, Blues Traveler's still around.
Yeah.
And then we ended up going to the show. They were touring on this album.
Yeah.
So when we ended up going, it's because I had heard this album. So there you have it.
Yeah, there you have it. There you have it. All right, well, excellent. Why don't we, unless you have any other comments about that, you're calling that a perfect album as well?
Double perfect.
Double perfect album. There you go. All right, so I get the production team criticizes me every time for throwing this to another set of sponsors, which we don't have, but we would like to. So, contact Smidge Films if you're interested in joining our sponsorship team.
Or you can email us at twofatguysalbum
twofatguysalbum@gmail.com.
gmail.com.
Well, we're more than happy to slide you into. Now we have an open spot, but since we don't have one right now, we will just flip this album over live in front of everybody and move on to side 4.
That?
Yeah, pick it up, turn it over.
All right.
Drop the needle again. So side 4 is where the first part of side 4 is where you rank.
The Violent Femmes.
The Violent Femmes into our list are now 16 album-long list. Where does the Violent Femmes fit on this?
Yeah, and we're talking about the
list?
Violent Femmes self-titled album, the eponymous album, Violent Femmes by the Violent Femmes. Just for clarity, I love this album a lot, and I am ready to rattle some cages here.
Whoa!
But not that cage.
Oh.
Moondance by Van Morrison retains the top spot.
Oy.
But so London Calling by The Clash, which was our first show, and probably we should, revisit that someday.
The only show that we didn't talk very much about the album.
Right. But it's also our shortest show.
Right.
But a very important album.
Mm-hmm.
So London Calling by The Clash, platinum album.
Yeah.
Violent Femmes by the Violent Femmes, platinum album. Both really important, influential albums. Violent Femmes wins this battle as far as I'm concerned.
Wow. Nice.
This is because I could tell you I've listened to the Violent Femmes over and over again.
Yeah.
And I know London Calling is a double album, but I'd rather just listen to this one twice. So Violent Femmes is 5th on our current album ranking list. It is behind Aqualung and 1 spot ahead of The Clash.
Nice. All right. Well, that's exciting.
And Rolling Stones can go jump in the line.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that. I do think this is it is a weird album because I don't think I knew a year ago. I don't think I could have named more than like 2 songs off of this album.
Okay.
But I know all.
But you know
10
them all.
songs, yes.
And this is what I alluded to earlier. Like if you like the Violent Femmes and you know the 1 or 2 songs that are the most popular, do yourself a favor, listen to the entire album.
Yeah, and it's you could hear the start of the song, you go, oh, I like this song,
right?
And then you go, oh, that's the Violent Femmes. Yeah. So, all right. So with that, excellent. We now have a new second place album. Is that what you're saying?
No,
5th
place.
No.
No. Okay, so if you want, Violent Femmes is in 5th place.
All right, so give me.
So top 5: Moondance by Van Morrison, The Doors by The Doors, also eponymously named. Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd.
You should have left it there.
Yeah. Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd is 3rd. Aqualung by Jethro Tull 4th. Violent Femmes 5th, and they knocked London Calling out of the top 5.
All right, excellent. With that. I think we're going to take the moment here to thank our team, our director Chauncey from Smidge Films, our PR team LR Media, getting a lot of our shorts out, getting a lot of play on TikTok and
on the talk. We're on the talk now.
Yeah. So they're doing a great job with that, and then all of our sponsors: Deeper Connection Counseling, Diane Blackburn from Beard and Warner, Smidge Films, LR Media. Please, if you've gotten this far, please hit that subscribe button. Like us, leave us a comment. Comments really help.
Yeah, we try to read them all and try to
Yeah.
reply to as many as we can.
I would like to figure out how to reply one of these days. But we do read them all. Media team reads them all. And they go a long way, whether you're talking about on a short or on this main video itself, or one of the podcast sites, Apple or Spotify. Please leave a comment, like, subscribe. Thanks. And with that, I am Fat Guy 1.
Fat Guy 2.
We'll see you next time.
I looked up a cough button.
Yeah?
Yeah, just like, how much could a cough button be?
Well, you probably need 2 cough
Well, you
buttons.
do need 2 of them.
Because you'd have to kill both mics, right? Or
No,
one
you
that-
kill one, I kill the other. I mean, you might hear a little cough. No, I mean, the idea of a cough button is I can mute myself while you're still
Right.
jabbering on.
And
$75 for a cough button. For one single cough button.
I'll just turn your head. It's a lot cheaper.
Yeah, maybe we could maybe if we coughed a whole bunch, we could ask the fans.
Yes.
We could crowdfund a couple cough buttons so they don't have to listen to us coughing.
Nice. Yes. Well, if a cough comes up, I will tag the
Yeah.
crowdsourcing cough.
Do you know
button.
how to pronounce the singer's name?
Gordon Gekko? Gano?
I'm just asking
Gordon?
because I know you're going to
Gano?
ask me and I don't really know.
Gano, Brian Ritchie, and Victor De Lorenzo.
Okay.
Gano. Gordon Gano.
Okay.
Gordon Gekko is, I think, from
A movie.
Right. Yeah. I don't even
That
think it's
movie.
Gekko.
A movie about money.
Money, yes. I don't even think it's Gecko. I think it's Gordon something.
Let me go wild.